Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Power Lunch episode in the 1000 Conversations About the Future series. This is a project of the Ithaca Green New Deal that aims to engage you in a conversation about the future of Ithaca. And as always, I am your lovely and charming host, Rebecca Evans, sustainability planner with the city of Ithaca. And also returning is the brilliant Lariah, who will be monitoring our YouTube chat. So if you have any questions or comments, we encourage you to interact with us via the chat, and Lariah will be sure that our speakers receive and respond to your questions. So today we're talking about maybe the most important aspect of the Green New Deal, that's workforce development. And I may be a little bit biased, but the program that we're talking about is truly amazing because it does have the potential to completely transform the economic landscape, not just in Ithaca, but in this region in a way that not only supports decarbonization, but is centered on economic and social justice. So with us today, we have two of the hardest working people that I know that have been putting a ton of time, effort, and passion into this program. First, we have Diane Cohen, Executive Director of Finger Lakes Reuse. Maybe you've heard of that. Diane is absolutely no stranger to workforce development, as it's been a core element in the planning and programming for the Reuse Center that has served hundreds, if not thousands, of Ithacans over the years. And also, fun fact, Diane recently won the Lifetime Achievement Award from NISAR 3 for her amazing work on resource conservation and waste prevention. So a very belated congratulations to you, Diane. And also with us is Dr. Aloja Airewele, coordinator for Energy Warriors Workforce Training Program. And along with Diane, Aloja has been pivotal in training and preparing at-risk individuals for sustainable, good-paying jobs, and is also genuinely one of the kindest and most humble people I know. So welcome, Aloja and Diane, to the Power Lunch series. And I'm going to hand it over to you and start us off with a question. Both of you have a lot of overlapping work, but I think come from very different backgrounds and very different experiences as to how you got here. So I'm curious, what got you into this work? Where does the passion originate? Workforce development is a huge time-consuming job. So what keeps you going?
All right. Well, thank you for inviting us, and it's always good to have conversation with my very dear friend, Diane. And as you hear us talk, there are many points of intersection in terms of our philosophy and the way we approach this area of green workforce, development. But I want to talk about myself. I trained originally as a physician from Midwestern Nigeria, then lived in England and moved to the States. Also, someone who is a clergy. But my introduction to the work that dignifies people sharpened as I got to interact with the late Dorothy Cotton, who was a good associate of Martin Luther King Jr. with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And as I started to understand her, I discovered that the citizenship is based on the ability to meaningfully participate in your space, in your community. You have the tools, but you're given the opportunity, and you're dignified because you are appreciated. So you are able to contribute to what are the pressing issues in your time. So when it came to working with people who had faced incarceration, the common thread was just that in any effort to do any redemptive work, whether they were re-entering the community, they needed to be given a space to also demonstrate that they could contribute to the community. They had to get the tools. And unfortunately, our society is not structured that way. We're very punitive. So in learning, I learned a lot from people who had faced these barriers. I discovered that you have to find a way to give them knowledge, but you also have to bring them into an area of work that is very meaningful to the community. So climate change has become a big issue for us. Just imagine people who had formerly been put away coming to contribute in a meaningful and energetic way to a problem that is confronting all of us globally. And so, in that sense, working with them gave me the understanding that this is the area to focus on, to give people the tools, not only to have jobs that allow them to be stable, but to contribute to that which is a big challenge for all of us globally. But I want to stop there.
I guess I'll talk briefly about my path to where we are today. But I'm really grateful to be here, and thank you, Aloja, for inviting me to have this conversation with you. And I've had a very unique career path myself, and I was fortunate enough to go to college. I was an art major, and then for the next nearly 20 years, I was mainly a bartender while I was experimenting with a variety of different careers and skills. And I heard about this architectural salvage program that had been volunteer run but needed a manager, and the position was funded by our local county's solid waste management division. And so I've had this very unique, that was a little over 20 years ago, and I've had this unique perspective on materials management, waste reduction for this whole time. And one of the early lessons I had at that program that I ended up managing beginning in 2001 was that we didn't have enough helpers. I was the only employee. Then I was able to get a single intern to work with me, but we were trying to keep materials out of the, valuable building materials out of the landfills. And I was really puzzling about how to find the helpers. And what I ended up getting connected with a program through the Department of Social Services, where there were people who were receiving public assistance that were required to do some community service. And I really didn't know anything about job training or workforce development way back then. I just knew I needed help. And I also knew I didn't have a lot of time to train somebody, but I would sort of point at an area and say, this needs to be organized, this needs, I would give a very general instruction and then leave them to do the best they could with what they had. We were extremely under-resourced. And what I discovered and saw happen over and over, and that's when I really had a light bulb around this, is that people really, they want to learn, they want to have purpose, they want to do something meaningful. And at the end of many of these shifts, a person who would come in really seeming very lost or down and out, at the end had a sense of pride and wanted to show and illustrate, demonstrate, what they had accomplished for the day. And they would often thank me for the experience and ask if they could come back or if we were hiring. And that was something that made me understand that there's a huge opportunity there. And, in the world that I'm in of materials and reuse, it's just such an enormous space for people to exercise their own path to self-empowerment, learn skills that they find connection with. And I just think it's a great place for social healing and social connection, workforce development, skill building, et cetera. So really happy to be having this conversation today.
You and I, we share a very good friend. I wanted to, hold off on that and then talk about, the part that Judge Marjorie Olds has played in my approach to working with individuals and workforce development. When I first met, Judge Olds, then she was, she used to hold court, and then there was a treatment court meeting where I was coming from the American Red Cross Homeless Services Program, and she wanted us to meet ahead of time. This was the team before the 1 o'clock court session, to talk about how individuals who were facing all kinds of barriers in housing, in employment navigation, and employment support. But she wanted to look at it in a holistic manner, and of course, Ithaca being an area where we're very passionate about alternatives to incarceration. So having worked in the county jail, supported individuals, started planning with them so that when they came out, there was housing waiting, and then there were individuals who were helping them to navigate the employment, scenarios. But I think it was George Old who wanted me to really meet you, Diane, because she saw what I had not seen at the time. She has a way of assembling people that in her mind she thinks these people have a philosophy, a passion, and a vision. But when they come together, they'll figure it out. And exactly that was what happened when I met you, when we were both on the board for Alternatives Federal Credit Union. And then we would talk, and it wasn't surprising that again, as Marjorie Oates and I worked to develop the Energy Warriors program, we invited you to some of our graduation ceremonies when we had the boot camp weatherization at Finger Lakes. You came, but at that time it was obvious that the way you were moving, reuse as an organization was to not only just take these various materials from the community, but was also to use the space for individuals to learn about sustainability, what they contribute to making sure things are not going to the landfills, but also have an opportunity to learn some, I hate to use the word soft skills, because there's nothing soft about learning how to interact with customers. There's nothing soft about learning how to be kind, how to be courteous, and how to truly engage somebody who has an interest in this work you're doing. So I knew that when you and I, when the pandemic hit, we met to have coffee, and we're talking about what is the next thing we're doing. And I think in that conversation, because Marjorie had left Cornell Cooperative Extension, I knew that I could talk with you, even though I didn't have a formed plan, but it wasn't going to be strange to you. And in those days that we just had some conversations, left some loose ends, then had another conversations, try this, can we try that? And eventually we were able to bring in individuals who caught this vision. And I will let you talk a little bit more about that component of your grant, allowing individuals to work at reuse and develop these skills, which have become very central to the workforce training.
Sure. I remember, I think our first cup of coffee to start this planning was actually right before the pandemic. I think it was in December of 2019, or that's my recollection. But then the pandemic happened, and that we've always tried to take a collaborative approach, but watching people and the way you were able to engage people to join in, it's been really powerful. And I think that's one of the, I guess what we call silver linings about the pandemic, is that people are willing to take a more collaborative, which is sometimes more complicated and sometimes slower, but we're going to have a much stronger outcome with everybody working together who needs to be at the table. But Finger Lakes Reuse we operate 2 reuse centers. We handle an enormous variety of materials, building materials, computers and electronics, things that are going into the landfill, and really when there's a local need for them. And so really trying to divert these materials, and all of that diversion and handling of materials takes a lot of human energy. And so, and human skills to assess what things are, sometimes minor repairs, or, there's just a lot of creative thinking, technical thinking, and a big spectrum of skill sets, from really basic cleaning and organizing to high level technical problem solving. So, as it took years for us to build up a more formalized training program, but it's been really exciting to watch people come through and get their experience. We're very human intensive. There is a lot of opportunity to build those skills, how to interact, how to be on a team together. And, I believe, actually, I'm, after the years of my focus on waste reduction and reuse in this small community of 100,000 people, including students, there is so much more opportunity for us to create educational, rich and rewarding experiences, respectful experiences for people who may not have ever had that type of experience in a workplace environment before. I see that Laraya's put a question up for us to.
Yeah, it is actually very timely. You mentioned, working as a team and collaboration and sort of all of the energy that we can muster that's needed to really change the landscape of what we're working with now. And we do have a question in the chat asking about who is involved locally in the jobs pipeline. So I'm going to massage that question a little bit and ask both of you, from where this work started when you stepped in, how have those partnerships changed and who has come into, this workforce development club, if we can call it that. And, what kind of work went into forming those relationships and how do you see it moving forward? Long question, sorry.
That's fine. Initially, when we started having this conversation, the two individuals that came on board very quickly were Rich John from the county legislature, and who is also a local businessman, and Jerry Ditt, who I'm glad to know had been voted the philanthropist, the best philanthropist in our region. And once we had this conversation, they were right on board and immediately talked about the fact that we needed to bring other, individuals who were of this mindset. And what has now become the Career Pathways Project, the philosophy was for us to bring together everyone as much as possible that we know who's been working on sustainable employment scenario, project for people who found themselves needing a job, needing to be stable. So we started reaching out. Diane is reaching out to people that she knows in her network. I'm reaching out. So we have OAR that has joined us. URO from CCE came on board. Get Your Greenback Tompkins with Kareem Bears, came in, and TST Bosses with Cindy and Joe. We reached out to them. All of these people enthusiastically came in, and of course the Tompkins County Workforce Development Center with Jackie and her team. As these people started coming in, Alcohol and Drug Council, Rich, as well as most groups like Hit Smart Tompkins with Lisa. As these individuals came, they started reaching out to other people they knew. Historic Ethica. We spoke to quite a number of people, and in this collaboration, now we've created a space where, rather than competing with one another, we actually maximize our resources. And it was at that point we were able to do a pilot program of focused, environmental literacy training and reuse with some help from the county was the place where we could actually. This was the physical space and the staff that supported me as we taught and brought in the curriculum, the route of success. So this collaborative network has broadened. It has broadened, and the approach we say is all of the above. All of our partners from TST Bosses, to the county, to the city. The city has become very involved in this, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And also reaching out to Park Foundation that gave us very quickly some funds to engage the consultancy services of Raquel Pinderhughes, the creator of the Roots of Success. So as of this moment, we are reaching out to all the employers in the area. We have had guest speakers from, Halco. Hal Smith came and spoke to us. We've had the Gideon Stone from Trade Design Build. So big and small. We've had a chance to connect with the Chamber of Commerce, and we're continuing to expand the this collaborative network. And I will hand over to Diane to talk about others that I may have forgotten. But so that's what we now call the Career Pathways Project.
Yeah, so the Career Pathways Project has definitely been, getting TST BOCES to the table was a huge, I think that's been a huge win. I mean, they're central to being able to be part of this kind of pathway or pipeline into quality jobs. And I think it's been a really great co-educational conversation that's been going on for the last couple of years. And yeah, many partners. And I think there have been many years of, jobs pipeline efforts that have been coordinated. And I think locally, this community is very strong. And everybody knows who each other is, the people that are in this arena. And B, there's this really great spirit of collaboration. I think Historic Ithaca Significant Elements has a work preserve program. We're talking about how to co-refer. If someone goes through a segment of a program, then they could, gain some more skills at the next program. GIAC's got its HETP program. They just referred someone to us in the last couple of weeks. And, we've been working with JobLink participants. We work with the Ithaca Youth Bureau. So, I think there are many players, and hopefully what I'm excited about is continuing to strengthen the support around the experiences that the trainees that go through reuse have, so that there's a more focused set of career opportunities. So one thing we learned from BOCES is taking an interest inventory, what someone interested in. And then additionally, I'm a supporter because I'm in a career that I never would have in an initial interview would have outlined as a possibility, challenging people to work outside their interests just to try it and to kind of broaden their experiences. So I think there's a really rich space to explore. And I'm a deep believer, and obviously I'm biased, but I think that reuse, the arena of reuse, materials reuse, and all of the spectrum of skills that are associated with it can be a really important place for people to get the development that they need, the experiences they need, so that they can get into these careers that the green economy, the Green New Deal are bringing forward. The energy retrofitting that's needed, et cetera. I'm very excited about the role that hopefully we'll be able to play.
So speaking of the role that reuse is being able to play, how has your work with reuse changed? Or how does it feel different now working with this slightly different network and slightly different scope? Although I know workforce development has been at the heart of reuse for a long time, but how has it changed?
We have much stronger partnerships. I think also at Reuse, we've learned a lot more about, the breadth of workforce development by being with the partners that are already expert in this. Another partner that we're working on and have done a little bit of work with is the local laborers union, and seeing if there's some programming we can integrate. I think one of the challenges that everybody universally is experiencing, whether it's employers or training programs, is the recruitment aspect, and trying to figure out what type of gateway into this type of experience would be attractive for someone who's not yet participating in the employment system. And so I think that is something that we are together considering, and that feels very powerful to me. I don't think we haven't answered that, but it's also assuring to me that Finger Lakes Reuse isn't the only one that's struggling with this. This is kind of a universal phenomenon that's happening right now in society, and I think that, to me, that's an exciting space to focus on. And I feel comforted that we've got all of these experts puzzling over this same big challenge. I feel totally confident that we're going to figure it out, that we're going to offer something that meets people where they are, that's attractive, that's respectful, that's and fruitful for their career development. So I'm super excited at being a part of that conversation and learning as we go.
Yeah, and as you were talking, Diane, I remember that in many ways it has this collaboration has changed the way that we all are looking at workforce development. We've been educated in so many ways, understanding that people are likely to stay in jobs that they're invested in, that they have enough knowledge to know that what they're doing is making a difference. And we were at a recent conversation where Raquel was saying to us, a phlebotomist can draw blood in the lab in the hospital, but never understand how the healthcare system works. And the way we are approaching, the environmental literacy component of this is for people to know why they're doing what they're doing. But also, just recently talking to Benny Rubenstein, who has been working, tirelessly and has become a guru in bringing people to actually explore the college option. We met at Reuse at Trubham, and she was just so giddy with excitement because they had 12 people who had come, who had registered, and they were going to do the orientation last, Friday. What this has done, even in our collaboration with TC3, because TC3 comes with a different angle. Our environmental literacy curriculum is it has some these are credentials that people can apply towards college, but we needed to be able to have a real partnership, a firm partnership with TC3, and Carrie Whitmore was very instrumental in that. So we have a professor who is going to be incorporating Root of Success into a course, and also it's going to allow some of our participants who want to go to college to explore through TC3 other partners in the SUNY system, to get involved in onshore wind energy. They can take those training just by being part of this. So I think it's interesting to see the challenges that have become peculiar during this pandemic time. We are also learning how to solve it together. I see there's a question. What do employers need to understand in order to effectively employ your graduates? Thank you for that question. So part of our collaborative network is also actually to have what we call the Green Employers Council. This is made up of employers who come together. This time, we are not just asking them to give, but we are also sharing with them some tools that will be useful to them, not just tools to retain workers, but actually maybe tools to understand the new building codes, maybe connection to the city government, the county government, for them to be able to get their I don't know whether licenses and be engaged in some grants that NYSEDA has for employers. But as they come together, they are asking us, what do they need to be able to support our, the employees that come from our training programs. One of the first employers that really, encouraged us was Jerry Dietz, again with CSP Management. He hired one of our participants before he even graduated from the course, and agreed to not only come to our classroom, which is one component of the training, what we do in the workforce training, is to invite employers into the training space where they actually get to talk to these individuals who are involved and say, if you were to work for me, this is what I'll be requiring from you. And to that end, we said to Jerry, would you be willing to have your foreman or somebody make a video of where you are doing a project, where you are measuring, where you are cutting, where you are constructing, to show to our students? Say, well, definitely. And when I spoke to Gideon Stone, he said, yes, we will be willing to teach elements of a construction in these classrooms. So the employers, we are not telling them what they need to do. We are asking them, what do you want from these individuals who are training with us, so that we are actually customizing outlook, how we train to fit your needs. And so that's how we are working on this. And I know that if Jackie was here today with URO, they will talk about a series of planned certification programs that they hope to share with employers, to train employers on the changing scenario, the landscape of employment, of the needs, of the goals of equity, diversity, and inclusion, and how they can equip themselves to be partners in that. I know that's a long, take, but Diane, I wonder if you want to.
But yeah, there two questions came in at once. There was one right even before that, which I'm interested in trying to respond to, which is, what is the same and what are new challenges in the post-pandemic environment, and what are the opportunities that have emerged? And I think what is the same, but maybe there's a new awareness about, is the structural inequity that workforce development can address, that structural racism that I think many of us in the community building arena have been aware of, but are really working to make some changes. And I think by creating equitable pathways, being more inclusive, there are spaces to not only develop a sufficient workforce, which, I mean, the phenomenon of this insufficient workforce is, I don't remember anything like it in my professional career. So it's interesting that it's kind of a worker's moment right now. And so, but I think this, what Aloja is talking about, the Green Employers Council, there's an opportunity to actually help employers develop to be better employers. And I think I've been trained in the nonprofit world. I came out of the restaurant business, where abuse and I was fortunate. I worked at some decent places, but I know that those can be difficult working environments. But there's really not like a support system to help these small business owners be good employers. Whereas in the nonprofit world here in Tompkins County, we have lots and lots of support. There's lots of best practices. There's lots of peer support groups and places you can get answers. And so I think in this, I don't know if we're actually in a post-pandemic environment. We're in a, we'll see. But I think the fact that the economy seems to be strong, for us at Reuse, the rising awareness about the value of materials that shouldn't be going to landfills, that actually have a use in a market right here in our communities, and the skill development that can help happen around that. I think, that recognition is something that is, from my perspective, is exploding right now, and would like to position Reuse not just in Ithaca, but far beyond as an activity for, position it as a workforce development arena. These are free materials. They're available. They are great training grounds for, name a skill, and it's probably being some like skill leading up to that career-based skill is happening in our Reuse environment. So I think that's probably our greatest opportunity. And there's a matching revenue that can support these activities, because once that item is processed, it can be sold to someone who wants it, and there's revenue generated from these training programs, which is, I think, really exciting.
Yeah, and well, as you talked about that, in the workforce pandemic, let's assume it. It's also the fact that workers now, they want to work in a place that allows them to live a very meaningful quality life. A workspace that allows them to take care of their children, take care of their family, and so I think this is a great win. This is a win-win. If employers are able to, with both training tools, assistance, create that kind of workspace, it will lessen a lot of dysfunctional life work balance that we have seen that has just really destroyed a generation. And with all of the attendant mental health challenges of the pandemic, if we can reconfigure our approach to work such that our workers, our employees, and the employers, they are partners in having this healthy workspace, I think it will produce another generation. And so that's my hope. I think it is a vision that, just looking at the way the Ethical Green New Deal is structured, I'm excited.
Thank you both so much. This has been really eye-opening. But I wanted to, before we close out, I do have one last question, as always, for both of you. And I think, Aloja, that was a good segue. Let's say, someone is entering into this workforce training program, whether they are, someone in high school or a recent college graduate, or someone that is re-entering, trying to find a new career, or re-entering society. If you could tell those individuals one thing before they get started, what would that one thing be?
For me, it will be, you have a wonderful opportunity to enter a workspace that you will help to make your community climate resilient. You're not just going to get a great job. You are going to be partnering, to meet one of the greatest challenges of our time. But there is an opportunity. That's what I will say. I'm not just going to say you are going to get a great job, you're going to live a good life. No, you will be a very valued partner in making your community climate resilient.
Excellent. Diane?
I would send Aloja to talk to that person. I think that connecting the individual effort to the greater good, and how an individual's contribution not only can provide security for themselves and their families, but it's contributing to some necessary change that we need to make. And that's something that one person can't make, but many of us together certainly can. We watch this every day at Finger Lakes Reuse. We have a lot of people who want to, they're workers. They want to help contribute to this. Sometimes we don't know exactly where we're going because we've been growing so rapidly, but people are willing to make the effort because they can see the connection to the challenges of waste. And with the climate crisis, which I think sometimes in a community like Ithaca that doesn't have an incinerator or a plastics plant or some sort of industry that's right here, so we might not be considered as much of a frontline community. I still think that being able to connect someone's efforts to this change in how we need to do work, to retrofit energy, retrofit buildings, et cetera, be more energy efficient, move away from fossil fuels. All of that, I think, can go far. At the end of the day, I think I see in every individual lots of value and potential. And I think that if we can really respect each other and give people space and some patience and an arena where they can start where they are, whatever that is. I've just seen over and over people succeed and grow, and I've been fortunate to do this long enough that I've watched people, including myself, people are just evolving, and work is the mechanism for that to be happening, and it's really beautiful to watch. I will put in a plug that our RESET program, which is our reuse skills and employment training, does have funding and opportunities right now. So if people want to try to come get an experience here, we're very connected to the Career Pathways program. There's the Roots of Success curriculum. that is coming down the pike soon. I think that there's lots of really great opportunities right now, right here in this community.
Thank you for that. Yeah, any plugs are welcome as we close out. Aloja, if there's anything that you want to mention before we end.
Well, I recently met with the mayor, and I was saying, how do we let our, the members of our communities understand what this is all about? And it comes to this, which is this vision that we have is not going to have we have it for 10 years, and we have the opportunity, and we have a very well-informed advocate base, and people who care much. Not, these are not people trying to impose a business on the community. No, these are people who care very much about this community, who live in this community, who want to bring a sustainable means for all of us to transition into this way that we will no longer use fossil fuels, and it will allow us to live in the kind of imagined space that we feel our children can live in, and it lessens the fear of we are handing a more toxic environment to our children. I think that is the basis, and then we can let the businesses and those who have the financial know-how to work that out. But for me, I think people need to just relax. This community has enough resources, the know-how, and the interest to make sure we get there. Nobody burns his house down and then will not become homeless. So this is where I live. I'm not going to be part of a solution that will not we will not enhance our community's well-being. So that it is. There's no fear. We don't have all the answers, but we're asking the right questions. And they say a good question is already, if you ask a good question, you've got to have the answer.
All right, y'all, you heard it here first. Ithaca, changing the world, one job at a time. Thank you both so much for joining us. I can say that Luis and I are both really excited and grateful to support the work that both of you do, and are so lucky to work with you on a regular basis. It really is a joy. And if there is one thing that I'm taking from this conversation, it's that respect and vision are really at the center of this workforce development programming. And it's very, very clear that both of you hold that at the center of your work, and that the vision is something that will ultimately really benefit this community and this region. So thank you both so much for applying that vision and bringing your whole self and your passion into this work. And thank you everybody on YouTube for joining us as always. And we will be back next week on Tuesday at noon. You will be hearing from the one and only Luis Aguirre-Torres and myself on an update for the Green New Deal for a special Earth Week series. So join us next Tuesday at noon, and we will see you then. Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody have a happy Tuesday.
Thank you.